Hello and welcome to Analysing Avatar The Last Airbender. I'm Dan and I'm joined by Chris, good buddy and colleague sometimes, depending on whether we're recording a podcast or not. How you doing, Chris?
Hi, gang. I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. So we just watched... I don't know, what do you want from me? You wanted intros. You wanted intros that weren't sarcastic in some way. I did it. Shut up.
No, I was just laughing at the... I'm good. How we've not spent 15 minutes chatting,
Right,
generally.
yeah, how are you doing? Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. We know how each other is doing. We had a chat prior.
We were briefly like the beginning of the Graham Norton show, where all the guests sort of shake hands and pretend that they've not been chatting for 20 minutes backstage.
Although I do sometimes wonder if, because they'll have separate dressing rooms, I do wonder sometimes if they literally never see each other. It's not like they're going to be in one green room, is it? It's not, it's not like that old Jonathan Ross thing where it's one green room and you get a glimpse into it.
Yeah, that's true. But even on the Jonathan Ross thing, I don't reckon it feels like that green room is like the show green room. There's
Yes,
probably then like another like off-screen green room.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know how we do it. Like we've got a little bit of a time crunch this morning. We're talking about the Legend of Korra, and within the first 4 minutes of the podcast, you and I have got on a tangent where we're trying to work out the logistics of UK chat show Jonathan Ross's green room.
I mean, I know how we do it. We do it by a deep-seated internal desire to sabotage everything we do. That's how we do it. Well, we're here to talk about Night of 1,000 Stars, Chris, which is an episode of Korra. For those who are new to the podcast, although if you're new to the podcast, this is an odd place to start, the middle of what essentially equates to the sixth season of the show. But if you're joining us in the middle of the sixth season, well done, thank you. We love having you. Maybe this is your favourite episode of Korra and you just dived in. But yeah, this is the podcast where we watch Korra and sort of review each episode one by one. I'm a long-time sort of fan of the Avatar Last Airbender world, and Chris is new to it, so this is his first time watching Korra. We are, as we just alluded to, on the 11th episode of Night of 1,000 Stars, which is the episode, for those who don't recall, where Bolin gets to be a hero in the real world, as well as in the movie. Basically, Varric's plan culminates with a plan to kidnap the president to convince the Republic City sort of army, the United Republic Army, whatever they call them, to actually help with the situation in the Southern Water Tribe. And the way to do that is Varric arranges essentially a false flag attack, which I stand by. He is capable of hiring waterbenders for his false flag attack, but he didn't think to hire waterbenders for the waterbending techniques in his movie, and instead that's just people dumping buckets of water everywhere. Just find that weird. Hire a waterbender for that too.
Maybe he's just not that committed to the movies.
Yeah. Maybe it's just budget, isn't it? It's just budget. He's a shrewd businessman after all. So,
although you got to assume whatever in the movies is probably some sort of tax write-off anyway.
Yeah, you'd hope so. They were on Varric Plus, and then they were only on there for about 3 weeks, and then he just decided to ditch them into a vault and write them off as tax. So we'll never find out. We'll never find out the backstory to Nuktuk. Like we'll never know. It's all gonna go. It's all gonna go away.
Again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Rest in peace, Zach Braff's version of Cheaper by the Dozen.
Wait. Sorry, is that gone? Is that one of the things that's gone forever?
Yeah, I'm sure it's gone. I'll double check, but I'm sure that was on the list.
I'll never see that again. Wow, that's a shame. I'll never get a chance to actually watch that.
Did you watch it?
No.
I was going to say, I'd quite fancy watching it. I'd watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd watch it. I'd watch it if there wasn't much else to watch. It's just brutal, really, as it goes. So anyway, this is the episode. While Chris is googling that,
just to confirm, yeah, Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and Cheaper by the Dozen 2 with Steve Martin. Both still on there, but the Zach Braff version is no more.
Well, this is maybe revenge for Alex Inc.,
Was that a Disney thing as well? I can't remember.
No. It's just that horrible show that he did where he was a podcaster.
That was a sitcom. Yeah.
Podcasters are big old horrible weird nerds, aren't they? Ugh, podcasters. I didn't like that show. Anyway,
No, that's fair.
Q2, somebody actually going back to the MBS episode where we reviewed it and finding out that I probably did quite enjoy it. I don't remember. I'm being facetious.
No, I think. No, if memory serves, it wasn't very good at all.
Yeah, that is my memory of it. But who knows what we said at the time? Who knows what we said at the time?
Another. I can't stress enough, guys. Like, genuinely, do have a bit.
Why
of
are we? Yeah. What are you doing?
Just so you know, 2.5 average review on Google.
Yeah.
And I
Rotten
can't
Tomatoes?
find the 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.6 on IMDb.
There you go. So that was at best watchable. Even in the best light, that was just probably watchable. All right. Anyway, so this is the episode. Yeah. So this is where Bolin unravels Verek's plan by stopping his false flag attack, and at the end, everyone's like, "Great, but Mako, we knew you were a great guy and a great cop all along." And Mako should respond, "Well, why'd you fucking put me in jail then, you pricks? Like, what? What are you doing?" So yeah, that's that's the episode. Oh, and also one of the weirdest choices from a plot perspective ever. Korra gained all her memories back except for her fight with Mako, so she still thinks they're together. We'll come to that. But right, first of all, Chris, I've got a big question, right? And I really like this episode for a couple of reasons. We'll talk about the good stuff in a little bit, but I have a genuine question for you specifically that I've been burning to ask since I watched the episode, right? Mm. Well, you've talked in several episodes about Team Avatar and Team Avatar not being really present this season, right? Just not being a thing. Bolin notes in this episode that Team Avatar's kind of fallen apart. And at the end, he's like, Team Avatar is back in business. Do you think that's enough to justify them being separate this whole time? Like, that's like them going, well, look, it was a storyline, it was a choice. Or do you think someone realised too late into the season and hung a hat on it to make it seem like it was part of the plan all along?
Yeah, I think probably the latter. Because, I mean, in terms of justify, that's, if the solo stories are fine, then that's, nothing needs to be justified, I don't think. But yeah, in terms of, is it enough? Well, it's one of those things where it's still... How come?
No, I was just going to say, it was the downside to recording at 7:30 a.m. Just Chris yawning his way through. Yeah, your attempt to stifle the yawn made it worse, I feel. But yeah, carry on.
I know. Probably. Do you ever do that, when you... No, we don't need to tangent. No, just quickly. Do you ever do that thing where sometimes, you'll yawn, you'll be talking to someone and you yawn, and you'll kind of... You'll cover it up by turning it into, a grimace or something. And then you'll be, on a video call or something like that, and you'll see yourself do it, and you'll just be like, oh, fucking hell, that is not subtle. It's clear, I'm yawning.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, but it is remarkable how little we want to talk about this episode of Korra. We were so close to starting a conversation about Korra. Please, the Team Avatar stuff, save us.
No, I know. I just felt, okay, you know what honestly is the problem? When all that Team Avatar stuff was, obviously not so much when Marco brought it up, I was just or Bolin, sorry. I was just no, which one is it?
Bolin. Bolin is Nuktuk. Marco was in jail for most of this episode.
When Bolin brings it up earlier, I'm like, yeah, too fucking true, Bolin. You're right. And maybe that is someone going, oh, this is a bit of a thing. We should probably acknowledge that. Okay. And I definitely think it's that more than the former. But honestly, dude, by the time they're reunited, we've had the fucking love triangle bullshit come back in full force. And so I was just okay, great. Team Avatar is going to be rocked or going to be difficult from this love triangle bullshit. Okay, cool. Well, aren't I excited to see them together again as a team? I am, but, Yeah, by the time
so your love and desire to see a team Avatar was hampered by the return of love triangle bullshit.
Yeah, and also by because what does Korra not having a memory? Because I don't know, it feels like I'm changing, but for me the topics are linked. Korra not having a memory of the fight and stuff. What purpose does that serve, other than maybe creating some tension with Marco and some tension with Asami, and wondering when that's going to blow up again? But at some point, she'll remember, or they'll have the fight again, and then at some point, they'll make up or resolve it. So why don't we just fucking jump to resolving it? Why don't we have Korra? Would it not be more interesting? Korra's there and she remembers and she goes, I'm still really mad, but look, this situation is bigger than us. We need to band together now and we need to be a team. So just for the interest of getting everything out the way, is there anything you need to tell me? And it shoots a look at Asami and he says no. Even that is still some love triangle, but it doesn't feel like we're repeating. It feels different. That's not love triangle bullshit. There's not two people with him or wanting him or anything like that. It's just he's keeping something else from her. From Asami's point of view, it's like, well, why wouldn't he just tell her? I just think we're just delaying.
That's what we got, though. That's exactly what we got. Korra says to him, what do you mean? Like, he goes, don't you remember our fight? She's like, was it that bad? And then he looks at Asami and he looks at Korra. He's like, no, it's not that bad. Like Marco did make the choice to lie, to maintain the peace, which is part of what made that, to me at least, more interesting than previous love triangle bullshit, because that's actually a really unique scenario, because he's been with Asami, he had the chance to come clean right there and then. Korra says, was our fight that bad? He could have been like, yeah, I'm afraid it was. We were broken up. Like, he could say that. He chooses not to, and I think that's really when Asami rightfully gets it. Because it's one thing for Korra to just not have her memories. Asami can't be too mad about that. If Korra just doesn't know, that's unfortunate, but, it is what it is. But when Marco gets the chance to tell her, he chooses not to, and he chooses not to in front of Asami. So the scene you've just described kind of does happen in the episode, or at least a version of it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's fair. I don't really, the random memory loss.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
It's just very contrived, and it's very, like I say, it's just postponing the inevitable, and it's just gonna, I don't know. So, it's a very, Team Avatar is not about them literally just being together. It's about them actually being a team. I want to see them act like a team. I want to see them be a team. So just throwing them together again isn't enough for me yet.
And having Bolin yell, what is it you said? Something like, Team Avatar are back, or I don't know, whatever version of that. What was it you said? Have I got the quote here? I thought I wrote it down. Yeah, Team Avatar is back in business. That's the line.
And I think that's why it's linked to all the LTB stuff. Love triangle. I'm not going to do that. Love triangle bullshit stuff, because it's like, well, Team Avatar are back, but there's going to be some fucking tension. There's going to be some. Yeah. There's going to be some internal politics.
That's why those points are so linked for you, because you are literally sort of going you're what you want is to see a team that feels solid and like they care for each other and look after each other, because that sort of almost family unit that Aang created in the first show is what you think of when you think of sort of Team Avatar, and by inserting love triangle bullshit, you're creating a situation where there's going to be just like a lot of sort of forced tension between the two, and it's like they just got them back together. Are you sort of saying that you at least wait a couple episodes before you do some, like, because Team Avatar had their tiffs, they had their disagreements, they had their fallings out. There was the episode when Toph and Katara fell out, and the episode where usually Toph and someone fell out, usually, if I'm being honest. Because my next example was going to be Toph and Aang, but like Toph and Sokka. I feel like Toph fell out with everyone at some point or another. But there are episodes where different characters have fallen out with each other. There was drama generated from that. Are you sort of saying, would you have been better? Would you have been happier maybe to have an episode of Avatar stuff before diving back into let them be together before we divide them, basically.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I'm not happy for them to not be divided. Like, and to be fair,
that divided doesn't mean physically. I should clarify. I mean divide them, like, you know, like in terms of like.
No, I did. No, I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
No, I knew what you meant, and I stand by that comment. Like, I'd be happy for them to just not be divided by things like love triangle bullshit or whatever else. And I mean, to be fair, you know, that is very much this team Avatar, I suppose. Like, do you know what I mean?
Do you not think conflict is like a really important part of like a group like this, though? Like, I mean, like, you know, when I think back to like, God, I mean, well, I'll put it in Chris terms. You know, the Power Rangers fell out with each other sometimes.
Yeah, but isn't conflict more interesting when you believe that they are a group? You know, the Power Rangers falling out, they're already, you know, alien fighting superheroes that love each other. So when you see conflict between people that get on and love each other and are a team, that's surely more interesting than conflict between 4 individuals.
Right, but that's my point, is like you want to see them be Team Avatar first and then introduce the conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think you're right. I think that's kind of part of what's missing. It's like, you know, we don't. The problem, one of the flaws maybe this show has had is it hasn't really convinced me of this team's like closeness. Like, there's a part of me that goes like, you know, when they're separate this year, you sort of go like, I don't know if I ever see these people necessarily coming back together as a group. they're all in such different places, and were they ever that tight knit to start with, you know?
Yeah, because they've never really been a group. Yeah.
So that is maybe a bigger flaw in the approach of the show. Oh well, let's wrap up any love triangle bullshit conversation then, because so we can move on to the stuff. But you know, for me, I mostly agree with you. I think this is the most interesting version of it they've done, if I'm being honest, because it's definitely different to just the petty jealousies we had in the previous season, which are just really basic, surface level. Well, these characters all like each other, and there's a triangle, and this character like this character, but no, don't really like them, they like this character. You know, it's not that. It's, you've literally got an actual plot occurring with it, which is way more interesting to me. Which is that we've got a character who doesn't recall having that breakup, Mako making the wrong choice and not being honest about that, almost in the most overt way he's done so far, stringing Korra along while he knows he's been with Asami this time, and that's going to have to come out in the wash sometime, right? He's fooling himself if he thinks otherwise. I think it says a lot about his character, not good either. It doesn't say anything good about his character, but it's he's definitely massively in the wrong here, and Asami is right to be mad at him for it. And again, poor Asami, always just a punching bag in the show sometimes. It's cannot catch a break, Asami, which is a shame, because I think we're both card carrying members of the Asami fan club over here. We both like the character quite
Absolutely.
a bit. Yeah. So I'm interested. Like, I don't 100% recall where that plot line goes, if I'm being 100%, you know, forthright with you, dear listeners, and you, Chris. You know, I don't 100% remember where it goes. But to me, that's at least an angle on love triangle bullshit that we haven't had before. Like, I can't recall either this show or any show really doing this exact idea, and making the character make such a clear choice. Mako made such a clear choice that I found that interesting to explore, because he's really not gotten out. He literally chose to not tell Korra, and in front of Asami. So, you know, his closest out would be to say, "Oh well, you know, she's just come back. I didn't want to add to her stresses. She's got to fight a war. I'll let her know what happened after we've dealt with all the stuff." Maybe he'll go down that route, but even that is some thin ice. That is some thin ice. So I'm certainly more interested in this version of it than the version we'd had in the previous season, where just the characters would constantly allude to being into each other, and it was really tiring. And, you know, Mako just making out with everyone all the time. Poor Bolin, truly left out there. Bolin never got kissed by anyone last season, I don't think.
No, you got well this year.
Yeah, this episode fixed that a little. We'll come back to that. So yeah, I don't know if that sort of resonates with you at all, but yeah, I think I'm more interested in this version of it than the version we had of the previous season.
Yes, I think that's fair. I think that's justified.
Mm. All right, so let's tackle some of the other stuff. So I mean, I have, I made a note that I had two big issues with this episode, and I can't for the life of me remember the other one. Oh yeah, sorry. Should we talk some positive stuff, and I'll save my big criticism for a little bit later because we've already kind of done a bit of criticizing. Should we talk about some good stuff in this episode first?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably that's a better idea, right? So I love a couple of things about this episode. Like love. Like this is one of my favorite episodes of this season, I think, in terms of like the content within the episode. I love Varric's plan so much. Such an interesting thing to do, and have a villain just be not at all evil, but just purely profit-driven is such a weirdly refreshing thing to see in a kids' show. Because most of the real world's villains are profit-driven. Right? This is... And having Varric be like, I wasn't going to hurt the president, I was just going to kidnap him a little so I could make more money from a war. You know, like, that's so funny and so genius. And also the idea, when they go to see him in prison, he's in this lovely, like ornate room with jail bars at the front, and they're like, what's this? And he's like, well, I built this prison. I figured I'd be in here someday, so... I built this.
Also, and that he's got his assistant with him.
Julie's in there with you too. He's like, yeah, do you guys go anywhere without your assistants? They all like look at each other like, we don't have assistants. It's so good. Varric is such a good character.
I hope we see Julie snap or like turn out to be the true winner of this all. Like, I really want that.
Julie,
I thought that stuff
do the
was
thing.
Brilliant.
Long-suffering Julie. Oh, man. So, the Varric plot in this episode is great. Both I think it's a really sensible storyline. As a conflict, it makes so much sense that someone would try and get Republic City involved in the war, and it makes sense that the best way to do that would actually be to set up a false flag where you've got waterbenders pretending to be Northern Water Tribe, attacking to prove the Northern Water Tribe are a problem, to encourage the Republic City to get... It's just one of those plots that's just like, yeah, you believe it. Like, it's both interesting, feels fresh, but is completely plausible within the world. And I think it makes for a really compelling story, and I think a really good conclusion to the. It's unfortunate that sort of this has been Mako's storyline. This whole false flag thing. He's been the one, looking into this, investigating this, claiming this for weeks now, and it's Bolin that gets to resolve it. Just show back up like, hey brother, do you remember that thing you were worried about? I solved it. Bye. poor Mako.
Do you think? On that, do you think Marco forgives Bolin a bit too easily as well?
For not believing him?
For not believing him and just being a bit of a cock. The episode starts with him delivering a signed poster to him. and then he's literally just like, sorry about that. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the thing with those two is they have that. They're brothers. They've been, you know what I mean? Like, Bolin acknowledging that he should have believed him was probably enough for Mako, right? Mako probably just went, yeah, right. I mean, I'm not getting through to you any other way. Like, this is the closest I'm going to get to understanding with you. I think they've got kind of like their own little... I am slightly fan-spotted this. The script doesn't really do this, but I would say... The speed at which they resolve conflicts, generally in this show, I've always kind of... or sometimes being frustrated by it, I have always kind of partly put down to their relationship as brothers. Just their language is just there's a shorthand where as long as one admits fault, the other one just takes it and goes, okay, you've learned a lesson. You've learned that was not good. And I'll forgive you. Like, that seems to be it. They seem in it for the long haul. Bless them. But I agree with you. The script isn't doing a lot of that heavy lifting. My understanding of their relationship is doing that heavy lifting. You're right. Bolin apologizing for doubting Mako. You'd argue Mako should be like, yeah, you fucking piece of shit. Come on.
But you could argue that about how he is with everyone. The chief, literally, But maybe that shows that he's, a noble guy who, is all about the greater good, and in this particular moment especially has to be all about the greater good. And so,
yeah, I wrote this down. So that's a great officer you got on your hands. He's one of the best. Like, how about everyone doesn't just act like they always knew he was a genius, brilliant police officer? Because 10 minutes ago you called him crazy and threw him in jail. Like, I know, like literally 10 minutes ago. Like, what are you doing? I always knew he was one of our best. One of our best. Where's he now? He's behind bars. Who put him there? It was me. That was I did that. But he's one of your best. Yeah, he's one of our best. One of our best. I do enjoy the little payoff though to those two schlubbly, useless donut eating detectives. And she's like, he's being promoted to one of detective. But boss, there's not an opening for detective. Oh, there's two. That scene, as cheesy as it is, I did enjoy it.
Yeah, that was good. Like you say, it was a good payoff for all that stuff.
Yeah, yep. I like all that. So let's talk about Nuktuk. One of my things that I love about this episode, as well as the Varric stuff, I love the Nuktuk stuff in this episode. I love everything from all the clips we see of the movie. It just looks amazing. And then particularly I love Bolin, Nuktuk, sort of Bolin saves the day as Nuktuk saves the day stuff. It makes me laugh every single time. And I particularly love when one of the villains says, "Don't hurt me, Nuktuk."
I liked how the two dudes essentially start commentating like it's a bending contest.
Yeah,
when they're like, he's doing this, which isn't allowed in the rules. Although actually, there's 3 waterbenders, so all the rules are out the window.
Yeah, the commentator commentating from the crowd, that made me absolutely. I keeled over. That was so good. Yeah, that and the guy saying "Don't hurt me, Nuktuk," and then when he wins, when he defeats them and he stands up, he puts his hand up. Then in the background, Nuktuk has just defeated his villain and puts his hands up. Like, oh, it's so good. Like all that stuff coming together has really I don't know. It's just so satisfying. I love all of that.
Yeah. I agree.
It's one of the reasons this is one of my favourite episodes of the season, because it's got all the really hilarious Varric stuff, really revealing Varric to be who he is. And even at the end, he's like, come on, we're on the same side, sort of. I wanted a war, you wanted a war, we all want the war. It's just amazing. And when you combine that with all of the stuff with Bolin in this episode of the Nuktuk stuff, God, it's just so good. I love, as well, Pabu and Naga just eating snacks in a little box of their own before the movie. And I know they're in the movie, but how insane is that? So we need some tickets for our star, Bolin. He plays Nuktuk. Ginger can get some tickets. We'll invite the president. Let's also invite Pabu and Naga, the animals who don't know what's happening, and they can have a little booth, a little box to themselves and watch the movie with some snacks. It's one of those things that when you actually got the logistics of how and why that happened, it's insane. Fully insane.
Yeah, that's very bizarre. You're right. I just laughed at it when it appeared on the screen. But yeah that's mad.
As soon as you put any thought into how that occurred. But also, I will say this, and I look, I get it. You can't do all the plots. But is there a part of you, Chris, as a tiny little part of me wondered this week, was Naga not concerned by Korra being missing? Was Naga just...
I know. Yeah.
Just accepting of Korra being off in the world? I guess maybe Korra has left Naga several times, maybe, and it's just kind of there are periods of time when Naga is left, looked after by other people. But yeah, you'd have thought, imagine Appa and Aang being separated, and neither of them trying.
Yeah,
to
well,
find
they're literally Dan, that was literally like a 4-episode arc of Avatar.
This is what I'm saying. So, like, but from an Appa's perspective, in that episode, Appa's Lost Days, we see how much he spent that time trying to return to Aang. So it is really strange that Naga's just like chilling in Republic City, starring in movies, eating snacks.
Yeah, but Appa wasn't offered like a royal box to watch a movie, was he? So
no, and if he had been, maybe he would have been like, screw the kid. Yeah. I'm very comfy.
Would have been different.
I'm a movie star, baby. Do you reckon Naga was a diva? Like, it insisted having their own trailer.
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah, I think so.
It's that I can't remember who it is. I think it's Ricky Gervais talked about it on something, and he's like, the thing is, you get offered a private jet, and you're like, oh no, that would be ridiculous. No, and then you go on a private jet, and suddenly you're like, well, there's less queuing.
See, another one of the... It's funny, like isn't it, how in the cold light of day, some of Ricky Gervais's older jokes start to really show themselves, like, for who he is. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. I went several years, for some reason, seeing Ricky Gervais as sort of a man of the people, and I'm starting to realise that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah, he was very much hiding in plain sight, wasn't he?
Yeah, behind
not so much
jokes.
being a man of the people.
Yeah. Because it's like that's like hanging a lantern. Like he's observing the problem with him having a private jet, but also fully admitting to having and using a private jet. Like it's just weird. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's all right. But he's in the bin. Everyone, don't worry about it. We put him in the bin. He can stay there.
Yeah, we're very
He's happy. He's got his millions. He doesn't care. Leave him to it.
Oh, he does not care that we think his last couple of specials were... Yeah, anyway. But it's documented, our problems on Ricky Gervais, mainly being claiming it's irony and claiming that it's about who the victim of the joke is, despite the fact that he knows that's not why people are laughing, and that nobody is sat in his audience going, oh, he thinks he's the victim of the joke is not the overweight person, it's actually him because he's a little tubby. Oh, isn't that clever and nuanced, darling? Fuck off, Ricky. You know your audience aren't fucking doing that. Sorry.
It's true. Chris speaks the truth.
But fundamentally, Ricky Gervais doesn't care that we think that.
No.
Fine.
No, because he knows he's got a bunch of sycophants to tell him he's a genius. So, let's move on to some of the bits then, because all that stuff I just absolutely loved. Question, Chris, for you. Sorry, I realised I talked through, like, the stuff with Bolin and the false flag attack and and I didn't really... I don't think do you have any thoughts on anything I was talking about just then? I realised
I jumped in throughout the commentators, maybe that is all I said. I know I agree with you. I think all of that stuff's hilarious. The actually very, very clever writing. I don't think we should have to praise this every episode, but every episode that does it rather. But they had one plot, they executed it beautifully. They had different plots within that plot. But these were all like, ABC storylines of the same events happening. So that meant the writing had more space, could do clever stuff, and the genius of him saving the day in real life to the backdrop of the movie version saving the day was fantastic. Great writing.
And I think as well, actually, one thing before we move on, also... Credit to the animators. I think the animation of the fight itself is actually really good too. It's easy in the joke of it because it's lined up with the fight on screen for Nuktarg to forget that it's actually still a really compelling action scene in itself. It's a short one, but it is a good one. So yeah, I liked it a lot. It's a good episode. Should we get to the less good stuff?
Yeah, man. Give us your beef. Give us your issues.
I've got a massive one. So, Asami discovering that Mako has been working against her, while untrue, is reminiscent of her dad, right? Last week, when they revealed to Asami that Mako was technically responsible for the thefts of her stuff and that he'd been duping her all along. That's a blow to Asami that it wouldn't be to any other person. Because the two of the closest people she has in her life, her father and her boyfriend, have both betrayed her, as far as she is aware. Now, we know Mako didn't do that. And maybe that's why they didn't go along with this. And in this episode, we examine that heartbreak through one stray line of dialogue from Bolin, not even from Asami, and then she is absent until giving Korra a dirty. Oh no, she talks to Bolin. She has a conversation with Bolin, which is a nice scene.
Yeah, she talks to Bolin on the... Yeah.
You're right. I'd forgotten about that because it's kind of part of a different plot and completely ignores the heartbreak of her boyfriend being unveiled to be having betrayed her. Because that scene is just all about her trying to support Bolin, which is lovely. But what the fuck is going on here? Why does Bolin get that one stray line and Asami not get to speak for herself? Why do we not get to explore that in any way, shape, or form? Because it is absolutely the most interesting angle on Mako being framed. Infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. And you can tell the writers thought of it because they have Bolin bring it up. Because there's that line at the beginning of the episode when Bolin says... Sorry, no, Mako says, you know, where's Asami? And Bolin replies, yeah, she was going to come, but it's brought up all this stuff about her dad. She's probably not going to come see you for a little while. And it's... How much more effort would it have been, Chris, to show at the start of the episode Asami pulling up to the prison to come and confront Mako and then bottling it? How much trouble would it have been during her scene with Bolin, where they're on the balcony and she's comforting him, for her to not reveal some insecurities and some fears and things that are upsetting her, and have Bolin return that favour in that conversation?
Yeah, completely agree.
What a fucking insane missed opportunity. Once again, they've done Asami dirty. It's ridiculous how abused that character is in this show. It's like they don't want her there. She's Meg from Family Guy. It's like the writers actively don't want to deal with the character.
They just don't know. It just feels sometimes like they don't know what to do with the character.
Right. Well, they kind of do, because they reference it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they were so close. Bolin brings it up. So they kind of did know what to do. They just didn't pull the trigger properly. I don't understand. It's bizarre. So bizarre. Unless they just thought of it last minute and it was too late to include it properly in the episode, so they threw it in with a line. Oh, this is kind of like what happened with her dad. Yeah, we should throw in a line, because that'll make it seem like we thought about that. Like, it's, again, just deeply underwritten, and infuriating, Chris. I just cannot tell you how annoyed that made me.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair, because like you say, it's a really interesting angle, and it's an angle that would help us explore the character more, explore the situation more, like explore everything more. Yeah. We just don't get that opportunity. And it would give it more practical tension and stakes too, because not only is Mako's freedom on the line here, Mako's relationship is on the line here. You know, it's yeah. And it contradicts with, you know, the upset and the anger at the end. Because It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, well, what are you upset with him not being honest? Are you upset because seemingly he's back with Korra and therefore you have broken up? But that, you know, you'd probably broken up in your head anyway. I can't remember whether there's some sort of breakup scene, as it were. I don't think there was, but do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's so muddled in a way that is not satisfying right now. I don't know what else to do. Yeah, that was my big criticism for the episode, just how they handled the Asami thing. Because it feels like they knew what they were supposed to do and just didn't do it. Yeah, I agree.
madness, just madness. And I'm not saying like ground up rewrite of the episode. You know, both my examples of how to incorporate it a bit more into this story involved scenes that exist already. Like, you know, the opening where Bolin goes to visit Mako, you show Asami not coming in. You know, the Bolin Asami scene that already happens on the balcony, you include some dialogue about that. If she's heartbroken, she doesn't indicate it anywhere in the episode.
Does she also have any dialogue, though, with... I can never remember names. The name of the guy who you love.
Varric.
Is she in Varric's prison scene?
Yeah, I think she is.
Because Varric's also betrayed her in a very similar way.
Yeah, it just doesn't come up. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God.
Varric, do you know what I mean? Varric is another figure of, you know, essentially a male caring father figure almost that has...
Fucking hell.
That was using her.
Fuck. I need to start referring to this phenomenon as Varric blindness. Because I have always been confused at people's dislike for this season of Korra. It is. I'd say if we were to do a poll, I reckon this is people's least favourite season of Korra. I think. People think the first one has...
probably their least favourite season of the Avatar franchise.
Yeah, almost certainly. Yeah, because I'm assuming most people are putting the original 3 books, you know, top.
The majority, probably.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? I think, generally speaking, the theory seems to be that season 1 has potential, but is flawed. 2 is a bit of a mess, and then 3 and 4 are like the best the show ends up having to offer. And I think, you know, I came into this doing this with you, covering Korra, thinking I can't wait to prove him wrong on season 2. Season 2 is not so bad. I think season 2 at worst falls into the same category as the first season, you know. Sort of flawed, but still ultimately really well put together. And the evidence is just not supporting that. And I think my love of the Varric character and his elements in this plot and this all the false flag stuff and the prison stuff and like just everything that they did do with Varric in this show makes me laugh or makes me entertained. And I just think he's such an interesting character to have. Not quite a villain, not quite an antagonist. He's just whatever he wants to be in the moment for profit. Like, it's such a clever... I cannot express enough how much I love that. But I do think it's blinded me whenever I think back on this season as a whole, the stuff I love about the Varric end of this always ends up standing out. And there's another element that we've not gotten to yet that I'll talk about when we get toward the last couple episodes that I always think of fondly of this season because I think of Varric and I think of that. I'm going to start referring to this phenomenon though as Varric blindness, just like a character in a storyline across a series that I loved so much that it blinded me to the fact that the rest of the series is a fucking hot mess. Because in sitting down to analyse this series of the show, just so many good ideas all pissed away through weird, wobbly, inconsistent execution, rushed, too many plots, sometimes too few plots, just all over the place. Like, this season needed such a rewrite before it hit screens. It really did. That is the conclusion I'm coming to. I don't know if you're feeling the same way.
Yeah, because to me there's almost soap opera style writing. Like, I know I've talked about this a lot, and I suppose Tenzin and Korra are in the last scene, but just, I don't know, just this need to, like, keep things ticking along to the point where we have scenes disconnected to the other parts of the episode in this weird sort of attempt to do half story of the week with a bit of serialized stuff chucked in. Yeah, I just find it tough. And you know, this episode's great though. Like you, I really enjoyed this episode, and I think if we were to look at the last 4 or 5. There's been more great episodes than not.
Because that's the other thing that gives this season a better. The beginning's two-parter. I forgot about that. Yeah, when I think back to this season, I think of Varric as a character I love. The beginning's two-parter, which I absolutely adore, and then the third thing we'll talk about towards the end of the season that I just like. Oh, well, the season's way better than people give it credit for. But I think actually the nuts and bolts of the season are deeply broken.
They are, but also I still maintain as well. Like, I don't know. It's not broken. You know, what have we not enjoyed recently? I don't know. Okay, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like, we didn't fucking review that movie, but I watched that movie like angry. I thought it was so broken and bad, and I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy Thor: Love and Thunder particularly either. And you know, those things were broken in a way that, regardless of whether I was reviewing them personally, I watched them and was like, "Oh God." But I still maintain this show is broken in. This series is a bit of a hot mess and broken in a way that is most visible when you're reviewing each episode. If I was just watching through this season, some of these things would not be as noticeable or feel as bad. I have personal stuff that would go beyond that, which we've talked about before. Obviously, the two big examples being love triangle bullshit and a lack of a team Avatar. Although with the latter, as I've said many times, I accept that that's a very personal thing to me because of how much I enjoyed that element of the original show, of the first show. But I don't think... Do you know what I mean? In terms of it being a bit of a hot mess and a bit broken, I don't think I wouldn't keep watching, you know?
Right, and yeah, I think that's true. I think, like, I gotta say as well, you know, we're like, I think this is one of those. This is broken in a way that when you stop and think about it a bit much, you start to see where it's all sort of been sort of sewn together. It's like, you know what it is. It's like this is my metaphor for the week, Chris. Dan's metaphor for the week. It's a hand sewn outfit that from a distance looks exactly like what it's supposed to. If you get up real close and you start to look at the seams, you'll see it's been put together quite poorly. The fabrics that look the same colour from a distance are actually slightly different colours, and their stitching's a bit uneven, and there's things that don't work about it, but like the effect when you step back and see the whole thing is fine. Right? And I think that's exactly what this is. Like, you know, if you watch this season casually, just as a fan, you'll come away going, "That's not my favourite, but I really like this and I like that, and the two parts good," and like, you know, all that stuff. And I think it gives you a false sense of this season's quality when you actually do what we're doing, which is pull it apart at the seams and start tugging at it and figuring out. Like it does quickly become apparent that this season is not really as functional as a casual viewer might think. And I'm not to say that person is wrong. It's just they've maybe done a better job than most shows at hiding the stuff that's not working, so it's not as obvious from a distance. Is that maybe it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Other notes. There's a nice scene at the start of the episode where Tenzin returns Jinora's body to oh god, I always forget Tenzin's wife's name because she's barely in the show. Pema. He brings Jinora back to Pema and is like, "I'm sorry she's gone, but I'm definitely going to get her back." Like, he has all this confidence, like, "I will resolve this." We don't see him again all episode until the end when he's just...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the soap opera style. Do you know what I mean? That's the scene I was talking about.
Yeah. But what I think is interesting, Chris, do you recall... have you ever heard of a little show called Avatar The Last Airbender?
I do remember that show, Dan.
Do you recall season 1, episode 20, 21? I think it's around there, the where they fight within the Northern Water Tribe. Do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
Do you remember that really important plot line to the point where it was actually part of a cliffhanger where once Aang was in the spirit world, you absolutely should not and could not move his body, and it was a big cliffhanger that Zuko did just that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, no reason. Just brought it up for no reason at all.
That's a really good point.
Tenzin's confidence he's going to retrieve his daughter while also breaking a fundamental rule of one of the things that allows you to help someone get back, which is to leave their body where it fucking was.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, maybe there's an explanation. Stick it in the comments below, people, if you know. But I don't have anything more to say on that, other than that the show seems to have forgot its own rules, which is fine, but weird. I also wrote down.
It feels like an evolution of the world thing, doesn't it? It feels like, oh yeah, no, they've got better. They've worked it out.
Yeah, I guess, or it is a thing of like that happened to Aang. But Zuko moved Aang's body and he found his way back. So maybe that was them discovering that's not really as important as they thought, maybe? I don't know. Because, it's not like Tenzin's regularly visiting the spirit world. So it's not like they can say, well, we've had lots of testing since then and we now know that doesn't matter. Because Tenzin's supposed to be spiritual leader and he's literally never done it. So you'd feel like maybe there hasn't been quite so much travelling to the spirit world since Aang for them to have learnt that, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Just an observation. I wrote down one of my favourite quotes of the episode and I forgot to talk about it. When Bolin says, you do kind of look like a criminal because you're in jail and that's where criminals live. Just such a good it's a good quote. Like that bit. Also, suddenly we cut to, and there's 2 scenes of this in the episode, and we haven't even spoke about it yet, which says a lot about them. We cut to Tonrock at the top of a hill with a force, like we're invading and taking back the Southern Water Tribe, and they like skateboard on ice surfboards, like they surf down the snow towards the old Southern Water Tribe that's now being occupied by the Northern. And then we cut away, and I was like, I shook my head, like what? Was this set up? Were we expecting to suddenly see that? Will that play a big part in this episode? It does play a part in this episode because there's a scene we'll talk about in a minute, right at the end of the episode, that really sort of like sets up the stakes or whatever. But just me, or did that come out of nowhere?
Yeah, it did. Thinking about it, like you're right. I have nothing more to say other than yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. Also, Varric being the most overtly slimy he's ever been. When the president's like, my propaganda won't change your mind. He's like, you'd be surprised how persuasive I can be. That's a little too on the nose, even for Varric.
I thought, though, the president himself was a bit flip-floppy. The president's like, basically has a vibe throughout of, what is this? And then at the end, he says to Mark, Bolin, I'm a big fan of your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I think, but although I kind of, I'll be honest with you, I read that more as, like, he's still, even a celebrity. Like, look, we've talked about this before. My line of work occasionally puts me in the realm where I bump into famous people, very occasionally. And when it happens, no matter what I think of that person's work, I act like I really like their work. Because that's just what you do. Right? Even if it's someone who I'm not a big fan of, I'm just like, I love your work. Something casual. So I just I read it as more, Bolin's famous and the president's still going to be nice to him. That's well, maybe I'm just reading that into it because that's my own experience often.
You don't actually say the words "loving your work," do you?
No. I'm sort of, you imply it without saying it, but it's one of those things where you have to, the expectation is that you act like you're to some degree a fan.
Yeah, of course,
or at least an appreciator of what they do. Someone who respects what they do.
Yeah, of course.
It's just and it's always awkward if that's not true. I'm not going to name names, but I've met actors, directors, writers whose work I've hated. had to smile through. It's weird when it happens. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although, I'll tell you one where I got away with it, because it wasn't until afterwards. I met one of the Farrelly brothers of Dumb and Dumber, and it was before we did the rewind review on Dumb and Dumber, and I'm so glad it was that way round.
That was so upsetting, the rewind review of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, it was. If you want to hear our thoughts, check out rewind reviews Dumb and Dumber. We did not. That movie was a real disappointment. Did not hold up at all.
No.
What a real shame it was. I think it was. I want to say it was Peter Farrelly of the two brothers. I bet. Yes, it was Peter Farrelly of because I met him while he was out and about promoting the Green Book. Or Green Book as it's called. Yeah, but anyway, that's one where I didn't have that because I was quite excited to meet him because I had fond memories of Dumb and Dumber, so that was a natural one. But had that been post our rewind review, I feel like that would have been a smile and say nothing.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah. Actually, it was also before I saw Green Book, so you know. That was mean. That was cattier than I intended it, but I'm sticking with it. Right. Right. So let's talk. There's two other small elements we haven't discussed yet. One very tiny one. They finally sort of came to a conclusion with this weird ginger plot that I still don't love, where Bolin is struggling to understand the difference between Ginger the character, Ginger the person, and seems to feel like they're in a relationship. She made it very clear finally, and he finally understood it this week when he was like, look, I figured it out. You've told me we're not a couple. I get it now, sort of. And then she throws a wrench in that by after he becomes the actual hero, she kisses him. Now, I find it a little bit amusing that Ginger is that shallow. Bolin just demonstrates real heroism and suddenly she throws herself at him. It is kind of a funny gag, I guess, but the problem is it's a stereotype I'd rather not perpetuate, that actresses are like that shallow and vapid and will just chase like the most handsome, most famous, most beloved figures, because that just feels like weirdly like a career move. She does it in front of all the cameras. Yeah, no thank you to that. I don't like perpetuating that stereotype, even if Ginger as a character is written to play that and that is a thing that maybe does happen. I no thanks. I don't want that. It's weird. Don't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you there. I think, like you say, it is a good gag. I'd be interested because Ginger sort of isn't. I'd have to go back and check. But Ginger's in like the sort of Team Avatar reunion shots at the end, isn't she?
Is she?
Like this is.
Didn't notice that.
Maybe
that's hilarious.
She's not. I'll have to double check. She's not in the pool. She's not like in the Team Avatar way sort of pool that he does. But I'm pretty sure she is still like within the periphery of all that stuff.
Are you excited about the new member of Team Avatar, Chris? With us for the next 3 seasons?
I genuinely would. Look, to be fair, if I would be intrigued by the dynamics of that, yeah.
Team Avatar featuring a waterbender, a firebender, an earthbender, a Sami, and Ginger, an actress. Do we need an actress?
Well, yeah, but for me, it's like, is it more of Bolin becoming like a victim of his own success? Do you know what I mean? Ginger's around fawning after him, and everyone's like, "You did one heroic thing." Like, there could be something.
I realised that I ended up making the joke too early there as well. I ended up making it at Sami's expense. So even I've turned a Sami into a punching bag. I should have said the inventor.
Oh, man, I feel for a Sami. Right, hold on a second.
Oh, hello. What's going on?
Sec. Oh, we've not talked about the end scene as well.
That's the next thing on my list.
Very end scene. Yeah. Well, let's hold on. Let me double check.
You checking out Avatar?
Maybe she's. Yeah, she's not on the boat, I suppose, or there's no sign that she's on the boat. She doesn't visit the prison.
No, but she's there in the post Bolin saving everyone. Everyone gathers around and talks about how great of a detective Mako is, even though he's not there, and they all thought he was a dickhead 30 minutes ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's in that scene. Yeah.
Great. That wasn't me being like sarky. I'm just like, cool, we need to move on because we've only got 20 minutes left that we need to make a move. Weird point, very quickly. They stopped Varric, right? Varric would have helped them. Like, Varric's plan, if he's honest about not hurting the president would have genuinely led to them getting what they wanted. And I know they're the heroes, they want to do it the right way by, convincing him. But, there's a difference between committing a crime and allowing the crime to continue. If they'd just not stopped Varric, they'd have gotten what they wanted. Because at the end, they're like, hey, President, Unloc's going to destroy the whole world. He's like, well, I'm definitely not helping then. I need my army here to protect us. You're the whole world. Like, you could stop it from happening altogether rather than defending your own home from him. No?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was really hard to understand his point there, wasn't it? It's really hard to be on board with him at all.
Yeah, because like this season, it's one of those things that sounds sensible on the surface until you think about it for even a second. Keep my army here in case that happens to protect my people. You go, okay, yeah, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. Because by sending your army now, you'd stop the need for that to happen. Weird. Anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Right, let's get to the final scene. So, the war effort not going so well. It seems that Unalaq's got evil spirits on his side. Korra's dad, who invades the thing, gets bested by Tonraq. I like the scene. I think it's a really good action scene. It's probably one of the best action scenes in the season, actually. Their fight is awesome. Like, truly awesome. A lot of really creative use of waterbending. It ends with Unalaq outright winning, just defeating Tonraq. And I had mixed feelings about that, because that does make him feel like a bigger threat. He's now going to fight, presumably Korra's coming for him, and he's clearly a very, very capable waterbender. There's a part of me, though, just a little part of me, that wanted him to win through less than fair means. I think that would have really edged him as a villain. Like, if Tonraq had been about to defeat him, and, like, he had Tonraq ambushed by a spirit or something, so he didn't even beat him himself. He kind of weaseled his way through it by cheating and having a third party intervene. I don't know, it would have really ramped up the villainous for me, but I think that's a fair choice also to say, no, we're going to have him outright win, make him seem more threatening as a villain in terms of just that he is a capable fighter also. I think that's a respectable choice to make, and while it wouldn't have been my temptation as from a creative perspective, I respect what they were going for here. I think what they were going for here is just as valid. So I'm not going to say we should have done it the other way. But yeah, that may be what I would have thought about doing if I had been in their shoes. But it works.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But like you say, it definitely works as it is.
Yeah. Anything you wanted to add on that last scene? Because it's a pretty bold last scene.
No, it is again that soap opera thing of like suddenly cutting away to something. But I thought it was very threatening. I thought the use of water bending was really good and exciting. I thought it was bizarre. I didn't really know what was happening at the end. Like he encases him in ice and then he punches him. So he's sort of, I guess, knocked out and bruised and battered. But, he's not killed him, but it is still it's played almost as if he's killed him. Do you know what I mean?
It's played like a finishing blow. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe that's it. Yeah, maybe that's what it is and all it needs to be, sort of thing.
Yeah, I could see somebody not necessarily being sure what they're communicating. Like, they do play it very dramatically. As a single blow goes, it's played way more dramatically than the others. And I guess it's sensible to go, well, wait a minute, why is that one more more noteworthy? But I think that is purely practical, just to show us that it's the blow that finished that fight. But
yes, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, right, there you go. I don't have anything else to add on that episode. It's a good one on the whole, but definitely some stuff they need to work through.
Yeah.
With that in mind, Chris, is it time for some trivia?
It is, Dan. Let's triv it up!
We're going to give you some trivia. Right. Bolin, flashing Mako, that poster of Nuktuk, is apparently similar to Sokka flashing Team Avatar, the poster of the boy in the iceberg in the Ember Island players. I didn't compare the shots, but I'm going to go and say that trivia is confirmed. I assume that's accurate. I don't know. I'm going to trust the trivia, the little trivia goblins that run around and put trivia on these Wikipedias.
At the end of the day, Dan, sounds right, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it does. Rotar, which is the character from the Nuktuk things that's played by Naga, Nuktuk's trusty steed, Rotar or Rotan, saves Nuktuk from the automatons in the movie. Apparently that sequence resembles Naga actually saving Bolin from a trio of mecha tanks while the Earthbender was destroying the airfield in the episode Endgame. So there's a little nod to a real battle that happened with Naga and Bolin in Nuktuk, with the two characters played by Naga and Bolin. That's very nice.
Cool.
Almost like on set, Bolin described the events of his real life battle, and they included it. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
In the Adventures of Nuktuk, Hero of the South finale, Evil Unalaq's plans. By the way, that is the character's official name in the Nuktuk series. He's called Evil Unalaq, and I really like the idea that his first name is Evil. His second name is Unalaq. Evil Unalaq's plans to rule the world involve creating a new ice Earth. Obviously, this is different to the real-world Unalaq plan revealed in Harmonic Convergence. Yeah, that's a fun idea. I like that. That they don't know Unalaq's actual plan, so for the sake of the propaganda movies, they've made it different and significantly dumber. It's good. Although, now looking at that, not really trivia, but fine. I think I'm slacking in my old age, Chris. I think I've gotten softer on the trivia. I used to be a lot more brutal about when something wasn't properly trivia. I think I'm letting a lot slide these days.
It's fun. I like the commentary, it's
one of those things where, I guess, I had the three ghosts of trivia, past, present, and future, visit me across one night, and I woke up one morning and was like, "You boy, what day is it?" "Why, it's trivia day, sir." And I was like, "Take a penny and get me some trivia, and I'll be nicer to it now." And then I sat down for Christmas dinner with trivia and was like, "You're not really trivia, but I love you anyway."
I think you need to rewatch A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure that I don't remember. That was like you were spoofing a remake of A Christmas Carol no one has seen.
No, that's how it goes, right? He visits the spirits visit him, and then he's not a dickhead anymore. He sees his.
But there's no. But Ebenezer doesn't ever sit down with Tiny Tim and go, "You're not my son, but I love you anyway."
Doesn't he sit down for dinner with Bob Cratchit?
Maybe.
Maybe his own family, because doesn't he also have a nephew that he hates? His own nephew.
He does, yes. Yeah,
maybe he goes for Christmas dinner with them, because he's buying the turkey for fucking someone.
Yeah, that's true. He really should. Doesn't he buy it? Does he maybe? But maybe they. Well, I mean, different versions will do different things. But logically, he should buy the turkey for the Cratchits, shouldn't he?
You're right. You're correct. That's the answer.
That's what he should be doing.
Maybe that's what he's done, and I've mixed up my backstory. Or maybe I'm just remembering the Muppets Christmas
Maybe,
Carol.
or you. Yeah, or you're absolutely. There's every possibility you'll just bang on the money, and I don't know enough.
Because I just feel like there's a scene of some sort where he shows up for dinner with his family, not the Cratchit family, but his family, and the nephew he hates and is shit to earlier in the story, he likes more now. But that could just be a Muppets Christmas Carol thing that I've incorporated into my knowledge of Christmas Carol.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I saw. Anyway. I was in. Do you know about? I was in a version for the place I do theatre stuff with. I was in A Christmas Carol, Dan, when we put it on. Do you know who my character was in A Christmas Carol?
I think I have the cheat here because I recall you telling me at the time. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but I will defer to you because I have vague memories of this.
Yeah, it was Portly Gentleman number 2.
Yes.
I wasn't even the first fat man.
They were and how many portly gentlemen does a Christmas Carol need, Chris? At least 2.
Here's a fun fact for you, Dan. The actor playing Portly Gentleman number 1 quit. Did I get promoted? Did I fuck? Still, it just got recast. I should have been called Portly Gentleman brackets the one that stuck it out. But no.
Oh, that's so good. That is exactly what I remembered. I didn't want to get it wrong, but that is what I remembered. It's the number 2 that really digs it in, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Last bit of trivia. The striped appearance on Verek's battleship, the Julie, resembles something called dazzle camouflage. So they were a family of ships in World War One that had this, and it was. I googled it afterwards after reading this trivia, and it is fascinating. Right? There's a whole Wikipedia page on dazzle camouflage. They're ships with these insane white and black section stripes across them that make them difficult to identify from a distance. You can see our ship is coming, but you can't tell what kind, you can't tell how fast it's going, and you can't tell what shape it actually is, or even size it actually is from a distance because of this camouflage. It makes it really hard to figure out the dimensions of the thing. And I love that they've referenced it here. It's a very specific thing. But just for those of you who don't know, Google it, have a look at it, because it is a fascinating design, and it is really, really interesting to look at, and you can see how it might confuse, the opposition when you're bringing their ship, determining its like speed and direction of travel and size. Yeah, certainly with the technology they had at the time. So yeah, dazzle camouflage is fascinating. Just from a weird history perspective. The picture they got on the Wikipedia page is of the SS West Mahomet in 1918. And it is a weird looking ship. It's a really fucking weird looking ship. So yeah, little reference to it here. I like it. They've got a demonstration of how it would have been seen through various submarine telescopes that existed at the time, and how it might have confused.
Say dazzle camouflage, yeah?
Dazzle camouflage. It's just fascinating. Like I looked through so much of this Wikipedia article, like way too much.
Oh wow!
Isn't that bizarre?
Wow.
Yeah, and it has actually, according to this article, been used by F1 teams in more recent years to hide the exact shapes of their vehicles during testing, so that other teams can't steal their aerodynamics.
Wow.
So there you go.
That is interesting.
So there you go. So yeah, in 2015, during the Formula One testing period, the Red Bull RB11 car was painted in a scheme intended to confound rival teams' ability to analyze its aerodynamics. And it is very similar.
Of course, it was Red Bull.
Of course, it was Red Bull. Yeah. So yeah, cool stuff. In my opinion, I like that. That's good trivia. Thumbs up, trivia. Yeah. So, with that in mind, Chris, are you ready to do a little bit? This is a quick one, so this isn't a long one. But if you're going to give us a little bit of feedback from last week, Chris.
Okay, I'll be quick as well. Feedback from last time that we didn't necessarily get a chance to respond to.
This one doesn't require a huge response, but I just thought this was sweet, and I enjoyed it, and so I'm including it. At Historic Helper on some social media platform, maybe YouTube. I think it's a YouTube one. I wrote it down and then forgot to write where I got it from, but fine. Said, I know it would be insanely long, but your talk at the end of this episode makes me wish you'd do a Doctor Who retrospective podcast.
Jeez.
Now, I assume that is not a classic Who podcast, but a new Who podcast, because there's plenty of new Who to do a retrospective podcast on. More than enough to cover us for several years, so we wouldn't be going back to the 60s. I guess yes, that's one day, maybe in a long time from now that we might get to that. It's a big task, though, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. And what would we do for the Chibnall years? Like, we tried to do a podcast on Chibbers once.
Yeah, we'd skip those. I'd happily skip
Also,
those.
part of me almost, especially because Dan rewatches Doctor Who every time there's kind of a big event. Are you doing it for the 60th?
Yeah, I've stopped at Peter Capaldi. I'm on Peter Capaldi's final season. So every time there's a big sort of reboot of the show inside the show. So I did it for Tennant. I did it for Eccles. No, I didn't do it for Eccleston because it's the starting one. I did it for Tennant. I did rewatch all of Eccleston's episodes. When Matt Smith was taking over, I watched all of Eccleston and Tennant's stuff. I did it for Capaldi, I think. So pretty much every new Doctor, except for I don't think I did it for Jodie. No, I think I did, I think I did it for Jodie too. And then was disappointed with
you did do it for Jodie. You definitely did.
And then in the build up to, the 60th and Shooty taking over, I've been slowly working my way through everything, but I'll be stopping at Capaldi's 10th season. I might watch Power of the Doctor again though. In the build up to it, because that obviously ends with
So you're not doing it all, man.
Nope. I'm not doing it. I refuse. I won't watch the Chibnall seasons. I've got better things to do in my life. Is short. I'm not going to sit and hate watch something. There's no point. It's incomplete. Yeah, I understand that, but I can't do that to myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I almost wonder whether a bit like we're experiencing here with Korra, we'd really notice flaws. You know what I mean? I'm like so. For example, the difficulty with doing that for me, the upsetting thing for me is, for example, I really like Journey's End. Like, I think it's a fun excuse to see everyone, and it hits the feels. I think the Donna stuff at the end is emotional, but I know that if I'm breaking down that story properly, a bit like Dumb and Dumber, it would probably fall apart. I'm aware that you hate it for very good reasons, and I almost don't want to do it to myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I'm with you. No, that's an episode I absolutely despise, and I think some of that would come out in the wash for sure. But that would happen in reverse as well. There'd be episodes that I have fondish memories of that maybe wouldn't hold up to a proper analysis.
Sure.
But I do think it'd be fun to do, though.
Yeah, I do think it would be fun. Like you say, maybe one day. But also the other element of that is my favourite seasons of that show are 4 and 5. And after 5, I'd be a bit like, I remember really loving 10. When's 10 coming up? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, as someone who's recently rewatched everything up to season 10, and I'm starting season 10 basically any day now. That's I've worked my way up that far. I do think I think the problem with seasons sort of 6, 7 through 9 is more a consistency issue. So it's like you'll get an episode that really is an absolute masterpiece. You go like, "Fuck, wow, this is so good," and then literally the next episode you'd be like, "What happened?"
Yeah, obviously the big reference point for most people being Hellbent and Heaven Sent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like literally the highs and the lows of the show. And 10 is inconsistent as well. Like 10 has that incredible, Oxygen is amazing, and then there's that 3-parter about like the monks where part 1 is stunning, part 2's all right, and then part 3 it just falls off a fucking cliff.
Oh, see, I don't recall that part, but we'll find out because I'm rewatching it. I'll be rewatching it probably within the next month. So yeah. But I'm excited.
It would be a fun we do. There are definitely Doctor Who opinions we have where we clash on, like Journey's End. I'm not a huge. You loved Death in Heaven and whatever that other episode title was.
Yeah,
basically the season 8 finale.
Yeah,
whereas I thought it went I thought it went too far. I thought it was too dark for what the show is. So yeah, no, there would be definitely interesting stuff to pull out there for sure.
Yeah. I think at some point we'll do that. So what was it? Dark Water and Death in Heaven, I think, were the 2 episodes you were thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed those very much, but I think they're a good cap on that season and a really clever ending. They undo some of it in the very next fucking episode, which is that horrible Christmas episode with Nick Frost. Is that the next
worth
one?
saying?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think the ending of it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just, that one central idea. I was like, fucking hell. Geez.
Oh, there is one thing I do hate though. I'm sorry. The saluting Cyberman needs to be thrown in a furnace.
Yeah, like that whole, like I say, that whole thing I thought as a premise was pretty. But maybe I'm not giving kids enough credit for there, I guess. The other thing I was going to say, actually, but if that is what you're after, obviously it's going to be, our opinions might not be the same, our opinions might not be up to date. But just in case you don't know, Nothing But Static, if you search Who Review, there are full season reviews for I think definitely 7, I think 8. I think 9 and 10 maybe as well. There are that content is there. We have done some retrospective of seasons of Doctor Who. Obviously, Jodie's first season is also on YouTube. We reviewed that, so there is and the 50th anniversary. We did an episode dedicated just to the 50th anniversary. So just in case you're not aware, because maybe you don't listen to Nothing But Static or anything, there is some Doctor Who review content out there. If you go to Nothing But Static's feed and search Who Review. I think that's what we called a lot of those episodes.
Yeah, not all of them, but we definitely we did, I think, 2 or 3 Who Review episodes, and then we did one where we reviewed Doctor Who with my buddy Matt. Matt came on and helped us, and I remember that one had a different name because Matt joined us. But yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. We covered a bunch of Doctor Who stuff across the early seasons of Nothing But Static, so you can
if you basically look at the dates of certain things, look around the time that seasons definitely 7, 8, 9, and 10 finished.
I've just found season 10's review. So Who Review 3 covers Peter Capaldi's last series of Doctor Who, episode by episode, with a lengthy review of the Christmas special Twice Upon a Time. So that's the January 7th, 2018 episode of Nothing But Static.
Yeah, there you go. Which makes it. Although if that's the third one, that's interesting. Oh, maybe because we named the Matt one something different. Because I found episode 8 of Nothing But Static is us reviewing. It says Doctor Who episodes, including the final appearance of the Ponds. So that must be season 7 then. So it looks like we did 7 through to 11 technically, because we did 11 episode by episode, and that's on YouTube. So yeah, that content's there. Again, it will be old now. I have no doubt if we went back and reviewed season 7 in this format, or even if we did it again as a one retrospective of the whole season, our opinions would probably be different. The first one is from 2012, so that is 11 years ago now. But it is there if you fancy it.
I'm trying to find the one with Matt to see if I can give the title for that one, but I can't find it. But anyway, that is everything for this week. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a good one. Been a little bit longer than usual, which is annoying because this is supposed to be a tight one. But there you go. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth noting, okay, sorry, I've just Who Review 2 from November 16th, 2014. The description, Chris, reads, Dan and Chris discuss the most recent season of Doctor Who, plus Chris burns a baked potato during the podcast.
I don't know the context of that.
My assumption is you put a baked potato in thinking the podcast would only be an hour.
Yeah, must be.
It must end.
It has to. Yeah, it has to be. That.
Okay, I found it. December 13th, 2015. Dennis Who. So that's Matt Dennis, writer at the time for Cultbox and thehollywoodnews.com. He works for a different website these days. I've forgotten the name of the website. I love Matt. Yeah, he's a writer for various websites. Matt Dennis, look him up. He's a good reviewer. Don't always agree with him, but he's always very, very articulate and always very intelligent and always has interesting thoughts on everything.
So what season of that? What season was that then?
Well, so 2015, December 2015. So yeah, the next. So that's the second of these that we did. It looks like. So we did Who Review.
So
then we did Dennis Who, and then we went Who Review 2. So, oh no, Who Review 2 is before that.
That's annoying. It must be because we definitely didn't do 8 with him. So we must have done 9 with him, and then 10 on, and so 7, 8. On
you know
our
what?
own,
That actually lines up because
10.
I remember watching some episodes of season 9 with Matt. So actually, that makes sense. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
We got there. So
and then obviously there's whatever the 50th anniversary. But with the 50th anniversary, we literally recorded it that night. So you just need to look up the date, 23rd of November, 2012. No, 2000. Well, it must have been 2013. Yeah, till 21st of November, whatever the date is.
Yes. I can double check that. What did we call that episode? I've got it here. November 2013, an unearthly podcast.
Nice. Good title.
Yeah, good title. Right, so that is everything for this week. As always, you can catch us in the usual places. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/NothingButStaticUK. You can get us, Nothing But Static is our main podcast if you want to look up that and see some episodes of where we review other TV stuff like we just talked about. You can also, of course, support us in several different ways, the simplest of which is to keep listening. The increasing complexity from here, you could, of course, support us by reviewing, going over to the podcast platform of your choice and type in a little review, give it some stars, some pokes, some likes, some thumbs ups, whatever. The other way you could do it, which is again slightly more complex than the last, tell a friend. You got a friend who likes Avatar or Doctor Who, point them in our direction. Say, hey, there's a podcast you might like. That helps us also. Again, if you're looking to go even further than that, the next step up would be to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/nothingbutstatic, where for as little as $1 a month, you get episodes of this podcast 1 week early. Also episodes of our podcast, Rewind Reviews, where we review old movies that we enjoy chatting about. Sometimes newer movies, but mostly old movies. The other thing you can do, of course, if you're not enjoying it, just turn it off. That's also allowed. Thank you for trying. Yeah. We appreciate you.
Don't worry about it.
Hate listening is not helping anyone. We don't get a lot of that anymore. I feel like we've been doing this for so long now that most people have decided that they don't like us, have already made that decision and have moved on, which is fine. So yeah, those are all the ways in which you can support us. Oh, obviously on the old Patreon as well, there is exclusive content. We're a bit delayed on the month we're recording this in August, and August's what piece of bespoke content is not out yet, but we've been doing Nothing But Lyrics, which is a little podcast where we review the lyrics of a song and either make fun of them or try to make sense of them, sometimes both. That's good fun too, so that's exclusive to our Patreon. I think that covers everything. Oh yeah, of course. No, Rapho, go support Raphodraws, RAPHODRAWS, Raphodraws. So they're on Instagram, instagram.com/Raphodraws, and from there you can find their Tumblr and Twitter and YouTube and Redbubble and support them. They supply the art of Appa at Sunset, which we use for this podcast. Well, that's everything for this week. Thank you all very much for listening. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you next time when we sit down to record, also review Darkness Falls. Oh no, that's the next one. Next one is Harmonic Convergence. Got it in the end. Bye. Bye.